China's Communist Party excels in rewriting its own history. More than 30 years ago, at least 10,000 people were killed in Tiananmen Square. The world moved on. Today, the youth of China only has a foggy memory of what happened. Almost 20 years ago, China hid information about the SARS outbreak. Hundreds of people died. Again, the world moved on and China continued to operate like nothing had happened. Now, a pandemic has ravaged the world. China is on the back foot. And it's relying on the same old tactics, rewriting the narrative, withholding information and telling lies. Tonight, we'll show you how China is spinning the story of the Wuhan virus, 5 big lies that Beijing is pushing. Lie number 1, Wuhan is back with a bang, everything is normal. Number 2, false stories on the origins of the virus, where did it come from? Number 3, the facade of economic recovery, all is well in China now apparently. Number 4, claims of COVID vaccines, China claims it has 2 already. And number 5, stonewalling a global investigation. Tonight on Gravitas, we'll fact check all these claims from Beijing and we'll start from where it began, Wuhan. This is how China wants you to see Wuhan, a city with pool parties, reopened schools, streets abuzz, and reports like these. Dozens of executives from multinationals recently traveled to Wuhan. The virus is history apparently. Wuhan is the envy of the world, and the Chinese state cannot stop beaming pictures of this normalcy, of how Wuhan is back with a bang. What they don't show you is the other side, the one that remains off limits for the world. Like the Huanan seafood market, the very same wet market where the virus is believed to have originated, it remains sealed. According to news agency Reuters, the Huanan seafood market remains a no-go zone. It has a large security presence. Anyone who lingers is promptly chased away. The Chinese state organized a tour for journalists to show them how Wuhan is faring. And the pitch they made was quite dramatic. No other place is as safe as Wuhan. But these journalists were not allowed inside the Huanan seafood market. So much for normalcy. Why organize a tour at all? Because China is desperate to project normalcy, showcasing Wuhan as a part of a Chinese PR blitz. The second lie, the origin of the virus. Chinese state mouthpieces have been blaming everyone and their grandmother for the Wuhan virus. Sample these reports. The People's Daily republished this from the Global Times. It claims the Wuhan virus could have originated in the United States. It quotes some Japanese TV report as the source of the information. Some Japanese TV report. It was first published in February. It remains on the website. In the months since, voices of Chinese experts, quote unquote, have been used to create doubts and confusion. Earlier this year, Xinhua published a write-up quoting Dr. Zhong Nangshan. He led the fight against the SARS and the Wuhan virus. In China, he's a bit of a national hero. Dr. Zhong said, and I'm quoting, COVID-19 was first discovered in China does not mean it originated here. Other Chinese researchers joined the chorus. A group of scientific researchers went ahead and claimed that the Wuhan virus was, again I'm quoting, imported from elsewhere. And before the world could challenge any of this, they published a book on the outbreak. The propaganda arm of the Chinese state has already written and published an entire book about Wuhan's fight against the virus. Talk about controlling the narrative. Lie number 3, all is well in China. The story of China's economic recovery is being fed consistently to the global press week after week. According to a report, Chinese exports are back on track. China's nemesis, the United States, remains the biggest buyer of Chinese goods, followed by the European Union and Southeast Asia. According to the Chinese state media, China has outperformed most G20 countries. But behind this facade lie the cracks. There is massive overinvestment in the Chinese economy, especially in the real estate sector. A Wall Street Journal report described the property boom in China as a quote-unquote $52 trillion bubble. $52 trillion bubble. This is bigger than the US property market boom of the early 2000s, something that had triggered the financial crisis of 2008. The Chinese state is using its banks to keep the economy going, forcing the state banks to forego $218 billion in profits. Experts anticipate a rise in non-performing assets, meaning bad loans, and a lot of them. By the end of last year, in fact, non-performing loans in China's commercial banks surged past the $330 billion mark. Then we have the looming food crisis, something that we have reported on this show. And the rich and well-to-do citizens in China have been leaving the country in hordes. So much for all being well. Next comes the vaccine eyewash. Today, for the first time, China showed the world its vaccines. 2 companies have produced these, Sinovac Biotech and Sinopharm. Sinovac alone says it will produce 300 million doses of this vaccine in a year. But will it work? Does this vaccine work? China would say the vaccine is effective. Last we checked, nobody had endorsed it. Also, the vaccines are at an experimental stage, yet to pass the third and the most critical phase of trials. China is far from regulatory approval. Why then is it flaunting these vaccines? 2 reasons. First, vaccine nationalism, to prove that China is better than the rest. And 2, to keep potential buyers hooked. China wants to change the script from the exporter of the virus to the provider of a cure. What about the rules? China has always shown scant regard for rules. According to a report, 90% of Sinovac employees and their families have already taken this experimental vaccine. They are the guinea pigs. Lie number 5, participating in a global investigation. Remember the World Health Assembly a few months back. More than 100 countries demanded a probe. China reluctantly agreed. But what has it done since? China is trying to influence this investigation. Last month, a WHO team visited China to investigate the origins of the virus. Guess what? They were not taken to Wuhan. How do they explain it? The World Health Body says it will send another delegation, a full international mission to travel to Wuhan. Hopefully they do it before the next pandemic. The world is not buying any of this spiel. According to a report in July, Beijing is creating hurdles for the investigation. The WHO team that traveled to China faced, quote-unquote, logistical headaches. The advanced team was placed under a 14-day quarantine. This forced them, and I'm quoting again, to do some of the detective work from a distance. If this weren't so serious, it would be funny. The long and short of it is this. After the lies and the cover-up, China is re-scripting the story of the pandemic. The Communist Party rewrote China's history to control it. Now it is rewriting China's present.